Today we're going to be doing a U.S. Senate election prediction. We'll be going through each of these key states that have yet to be called, giving them a designation on the scale of safe red to safe blue. We'll start with the likely states because the safe ones have already been called. We're going to start with the likely blue, mix things up. Starting out with the state of Minnesota. The state has had a very long history of voting blue. I don't think anything will change. The state has been in the news quite a few times since the second Trump administration began, well, even before that. But the state has shown they're definitely willing and will most likely vote for Democrats. So that's going to be the call there for the Senate race in the state of Minnesota. Next up, we're going to go to the likely red states. There's going to be more of these than there were in the likely blue column. Starting out with the likely red, we have the one I feel the most confident in calling, that being South Carolina. Long history of voting red, and I think Republicans are a little nervous that the seat has narrowed from safe to likely, but at the end of the day, it's still a Republican victory, no matter what the margin is, but that's going to be the call there in South Carolina. We're going to head over to Montana now, where the incumbent Republican senator is retiring, and I think that even though Republicans won't have incumbency advantage, they will still be able to win this seat, probably by a comfortable margin. The last time Montana had a Democratic senator was about 2 years ago in 2024, when Jon Tester lost his re-election bid, and ultimately now the state has full Republican representation. 2 Republicans in the House, 2 Republican senators in the Senate, and then a Republican governor as well. The state has drifted further and further to the right, and hasn't elected Democrats in a while, so I don't think this election will be any different. And then that's going to be the end of the likely states for the Republicans. We'll go to the lean blue now. We have the state of New Hampshire. This state, kind of similarly to Minnesota, pretty long history of voting blue. I don't think that this November will be anything different, so that's going to be the call there in the state of New Hampshire. Nothing crazy there. And then we're going to get to the state of Georgia. Georgia, I'm going to put into the lean blue margin. This is kind of an interesting call. Generally on the presidential level, New Hampshire and Georgia are not in the same column, but the Senate races are a different battle. And I think that Jon Ossoff, he is performing quite well in the polls as well as the betting markets, and he's got a very strong fundraising game. So I think he will be able to win this election by a lean margin. And then we're going to get to a state that's even a little more shocking, that being the state of North Carolina. Going to put that into the lean blue column. This state, Roy Cooper, former Democratic governor, is running for the Senate seat, and the incumbent Republican in this seat actually is retiring, so neither party has incumbency advantage, but Democrats do have a very popular former governor as their nominee for this crucial race. So that is going to be the first flip from red to blue of this prediction that I've called. And then I think that will be the end of the lean blue. We're going to now get to the lean red, starting out with the state of Nebraska. Nebraska generally is in the safe red column. The only reason it's moved from safe to lean is because there isn't a Democrat actually running in this race. There is, however, an independent, Dan Osborne, who actually ran for the other Senate seat 2 years ago in 2024 when Harris was running, and he significantly outperformed Harris. So I think that in an environment that is more favorable to Democrats, he certainly is not a Democrat, but he's kind of been the de facto Democratic Party's nominee, even though he doesn't actually have a D next to his name, but he's an independent. He is getting a lot of votes from Democrats, but in order to get this state into the lean column, he's also going to have to get a lot of votes from independents, of course, and then even many Republicans, and I think he will be able to do that. I don't think he'll be able to quite get enough Republican votes in order to win the state, but for now, that's going to be the call there. And then we're going to head over to Florida. Florida has, in recent years, voted further and further to the right, even reliably Democratic counties such as Miami-Dade, where Democrats where Clinton in 2016 really ran up the numbers. She did lose the state, but she did quite well in Miami-Dade County. But since then, since 2020 and then 2024, the state has and it has kind of drifted further to the right and has consistently elected Republicans to the governorship, the Senate, vast majority of the House seats. The state on the House level was fairly gerrymandered, though, however, but even if it weren't, it would still elect primarily Republicans. There are very few Senate or House Democrats in the state of Florida. And then I think that will be the end of the lean red. The rest of these are going to be in the tilt column. So we'll start with the tilt blue. We'll alternate between tilt red and tilt blue. First up, we have the state of Maine. This is going to be the second flip of the prediction, with Susan Collins losing her re-election bid. This is a Republican-held seat. It is one of the few remaining Republican-held seats in states that Harris won in 2024. So Susan Collins is facing a tough election bid, but she has definitely performed well against other famous Democrats in the past. So it could be a potential upset, and she could be able to actually win re-election. I don't think it's the most likely situation at the moment. I think the Democratic nominee also is not the strongest they could have put forward. He's got some serious scandals, and I don't think that will help him. Prior to the scandal, I had the state in the lean blue margin, but because of that, I'm going to move it from lean blue to tilt blue. And then we have Michigan. Michigan is going to be in the tilt blue column as well. This state, I think if Republicans are going to pick up a state in the Senate, or pick up a seat in the Senate, it would probably come through the state of Michigan. I don't think it's the most likely situation, but that's going to be the call there, 49 to 47. And then we'll do some Republican states now. We have the state of Iowa, which I'm going to put in the tilt red column, moving this from lean red to tilt red. I think it really could certainly end up in the lean red column, but there has been some polling that shows Democrats actually with a fighting chance in the state of Iowa. Like I said, I don't think it's the most likely situation, but I am going to change the designation from lean red to tilt red for the state of Iowa. And then we're going to head over to Texas, where I'm going to give it the same call. And that results in 49 to 49 for each party is tied. Texas, I think the Democrats have a decent chance. James Tallarico, last I checked, was somewhere in the ballpark of 35 to 40% likelihood of winning this race when it came to the betting markets. The polls seem to primarily have Ken Paxton, the Republican, up, but it is certainly a narrow race. And I think it has real possibility to be an even closer race than 2018 was, when Beto O'Rourke lost Texas by about less than 3 points. It was like 2.7. But I think that at the end of the day, this state is a Republican state. I think in the long run, it will vote further and further to the left, eventually becoming a purple state, and then quite a few elections after that, becoming a blue state. But for now, I think it will remain in the Republican Party's column. And then we have the state of Alaska, where Mary Peltola is running for the Senate seat against Dan Sullivan. Mary Peltola has done pretty well on the statewide level. She won her bid for the House, which, because Alaska has such a small population, the whole House is the Senate district. It's just the whole state. So I think that she will do well enough to win election. I think it will be close. Honestly, any of these tilt states could feasibly go the other way. But for now, if I had to call it, that would probably be the call I would do. And then that's 50 to 49. So the state that will determine everything is probably going to be the state of Ohio. And I've gone back and forth on this prediction. I think at the moment, I'm going to put it in the tilt blue column. Sherrod Brown, strong Democratic nominee. And I think that if Democrats can get to a tilt loss in the state of Iowa, I think Ohio is a tiny bit more Democratic friendly, and that it could result in a narrow but needed Democratic victory for the Democrats to control the Senate. That's going to be 51 to 49. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.